I'm Robert Vaughan, Salim Mansur's campaign manager and the master of ceremonies tonight, though I won't be speaking for very long because we have, of course, Maxime in the room. Maxime. And of course, Salim will be, after I speak for just a little bit, Salim will come up and if you haven't known, he is the one who wrote the book on multiculturalism. It's called Delectable Lie, A Liberal Repudiation of Multiculturalism. And that is what the speech is, or the policy release is tonight, is the cost of multiculturalism. A policy that began, as you may know, with Pierre Elliott Trudeau, continued on successively by every single party who has taken power since then, Liberal and Conservative. It was actually enacted into legislation by Brian Mulroney's Progressive Conservative Party. So although it was the brainchild of Liberal Pierre Elliott Trudeau, it was enacted into legislation under a PC government. So keep that in mind for anybody who's talking about splitting the vote. Justin Trudeau has said that Canada is the first post-national state. He also said that Canada has no core identity. His words, no core identity. You can take that to mean culture, of course. That's what we're talking about tonight, culture. And of course, we're here to refute that. That is misinformation. That's false news. That's his opinion. It's not fact. The People's Party of Canada has defined in one of its slogans what Canadian culture really is about. It's about individual freedom, personal responsibility, fairness, and respect. That is one of the slogans, besides strong and free, which has been voted, I think, the best slogan, at least by Tom McConnell. Anybody who listens to Tom McConnell, he went down all the slogans, and going forward, or whatever the other ones were, just didn't cut it to strong and free. But individual freedom, what is that? Does every culture in the world celebrate individual freedom? I think that it was Jordan Peterson, a Toronto professor, who said it best when he talked about the intersectionalists, the people out there who are talking about all the different clusters of groups and collectives and ethnicities and races and sexual orientations and breaking them down into intersections. And he said all they have to do is just keep on going till they get to the real polity, that is the individual. That's what individual freedom is all about. Is it about individual rights? That's what is core to our identity. It means that the government is our servant, not our master. We are the polity of Canada. And of course, personal responsibility. People have said, at least to me, oh, so this is a free-for-all, is it? Individual rights, individual freedom. You can do anything you want. No. Personal responsibility means my freedom ends where your nose begins. It's because you have rights too. So that is part of our culture. We know that and respect other people for that. We know that we have the right to do what we want to do as long as it doesn't adversely affect anybody else's same right. It should go without saying. Fairness. What does fairness mean? Fairness means that nobody is above the law. SNC Lavalin, Justin Trudeau, he's not above the law. He's already been convicted, if that's the proper word, of ethics violations, first in the history of this nation. Nobody is above the law. That's what fairness means. It means that there should be no dairy cartel. You know? Everybody should be treated equally. And every corporation should be treated equally. There's no reason, or it's certainly unfair at least, to say to a corporation, we're going to give you $1 billion, but we're not going to give you $1 billion. It begs the question, why? Why would you want to give these people more money and not these people? It's just blatantly unfair. That's not a Canadian thing. It's not part of our culture. We know that it's fundamentally wrong. And respect, the last one. Respect is the one that gets the least coverage, I think, by our detractors out there, because it means that we recognize you have individual freedom and individual choice, and so sometimes your choices are not going to be my choices. whether it's your sexual preference, the clothes you wear, the books you read, the food you eat, any of these things, they're going to be different for all of us. We have individual choices, and we have to respect at least the right of these people to exercise those choices. So that in a nutshell, individual freedom, personal responsibility, fairness, and respect. That is Canadian culture. That is the culture that Justin Trudeau says that we don't have. We don't have a core identity. And yet when we say these words to Canadians, whether they're in St. John's or Victoria, I think they know what they mean. That's what binds us. We're not talking culture about like a fisherman in Labrador having the same culture as a businessman on Bay Street, or a lumberjack in Quebec or in British Columbia. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about culture. We're talking about ideas and values and principles that are ingrained in us over hundreds of years of teaching and leading by example. So Justin Trudeau, you're wrong. Canada does have a core identity. And to speak a little bit more about why multiculturalism is destroying the very fabric of this culture, the very idea of all of those attributes that we identify as culture, I'll introduce Salim Mansur. He is a professor emeritus now at Western University, having just recently retired. Good luck with that, Salim. He's the author of Islam's Predicament, Perspectives of a Dissident Muslim, co-editor of Indira Rajiv Years, The Indian Economy and Polity, 1966 to 91, The Quran Problem and Islamism. I sat down with Salim for a good 2-hour interview about that book, which is over there, The Quran Problem and Islamism, which defines the issue for those people out there who confuse the two, Islam and Islamism, Islam and jihadists, Islam and terrorism, Islam and ISIS. Salim is a Muslim. And I have to admit, when I hear out there, okay, we have a Muslim candidate running for us, I want to find out where his values lie. I won't say that I won't vote for a Muslim. I'm his campaign manager. But I know that it goes through each and every one of our minds, because it is not a religion, an ideology that has been formulated in Canada. But we respect, again, here's the word respect, his right to choose his religion. As long as, again, here's the words, personal responsibility, it doesn't influence you. So he's a Muslim who has been vocal for the last 30 plus years against those very notions out there which are threatening the fabric of our society. So he should be supported. He's received a medal from the Senate of Canada. He's the recipient of the American Jewish Congress's, the Stephen S. Weiss Humanitarian Award, Profiles in Courage in 2006. And of course, he is the author of Delectable Lie, a liberal repudiation of multiculturalism. So please help me support and welcome the candidate and the next Member of Parliament for London North Centre, Salim Mansur.
Well, good evening, my friends, and welcome. As Robert was speaking, the following thought was going through my mind, that Maxime, my friend, has not only built a party, the fastest growing party in this country, but Maxime has built a Team Canada where any one of us who is member of his team can be a designated hitter, and that Robert could do it. My friends, Thank you for coming out. Thank you for joining us this evening. On behalf of the members of the People's Party and the PPC candidates in London, all my friends, and those from the southwestern region of Ontario, welcome. It is our great pleasure and joy to have in our midst the Honorable Maxime Bernier. The leader of the People's Party and the future Prime Minister of our beloved Canada. Our beloved Canada that our founding fathers called the Lord's Dominion, from sea to shining sea. Before Maxime takes the podium, permit me to share a few thoughts of mine with you on multiculturalism, that is the main subject of his remarks for this evening, titled Costs of Multiculturalism. Maxime is the only leader, as I just mentioned, of the fastest growing Federalist Party in Canada, the People's Party, to speak openly and publicly on subjects concerned taboo by the elite establishment, and has paid attendance in the media and in the academia, who together have administered our country, regardless of which of the Tweedledee or Tweedledum parties, the Liberals and the Conservatives, have held the nation's steering wheel in Ottawa. There are two sacred cows in Canadian politics: immigration and multiculturalism. Any critical discussion of either is considered by the watchdogs of our elite establishment operating out of Montreal and Ottawa and Toronto as politically incorrect and therefore reprehensible. But my friends, it is well past the time that of critical discussion or questioning of any subject in Canadian politics and society is any longer considered a taboo, or decried as politically incorrect by the watchdogs of the elite establishment, while those doing the questioning are smeared as bigots and racists. Maxime has already laid out a clearly distinct and bold immigration policy of the People's Party of Canada, and invited Canadians to freely and honestly examine it. We are not intimidated, my friends, by smear from those who lack courage and the honesty to engage with us on the substance of the policy, which are and have been carefully considered on the basis of our national interests. Maxime has presented numbers and described the metrics of sustainable policy to Canadians ahead of a federal election for the people to judge its merit and express their views before they vote. It will be for the people to decide, after they have examined this policy presented by Maxime, in contrast to the position of other federal parties who hide behind endless platitudes about compassion and generosity in solving the problems of the world through an open-door immigration policy without any ceiling on numbers. In other words, an immigration policy pushed by the elite establishment together with multiculturalism is and will irrevocably change our country for the worse long before the seas rise and ice caps melt and polar bears disappear. Our immigration policy and our multiculturalism policy are both long past their expiry dates. This is why Maxime and the People's Party are committed to critically re-examine these policies, engage with Canadians, and seek their input, as these policies have real-life consequences for all of us, and amend, redefine, rewrite, or repeal in whole or in part these policies that no longer serve nor secure Canadian interests. You know, my friends, as Robert has mentioned, I wrote a book titled Delectable Lie, a liberal repudiation of multiculturalism. In it, I discussed why official multiculturalism introduced by the former Prime Minister, the late Pierre Trudeau, needed to be repealed because its major premise is based on a falsehood. And as a delectable or sweet lie, it is a toxin, a poison, corrosive of the foundational values of Canada as a liberal democracy. Official multiculturalism is based on the idea that all cultures are equal. Now, my friends, you and I both know this is a flat-out lie. Since anyone with a smidgen of historical awareness and intellectual honesty knows that cultures are not equal, never has been equal. And to state that a culture which puts man on the moon, decodes the genome, and constitutionally protects individual freedom is equal to a culture that denies the equality of sexes, has little or no record of any modern scientific achievement, and where the idea of individual freedom is practically non-existent. To suggest such an outrageous statement that all cultures are equal when this is the reality of the world that which we live in and have always lived in was a patent lie. And yet we Canadians, given our sense of generosity, our compassion, are willing always to extend our hands to our neighbors, bought into that lie. The adoption of the idea of multiculturalism in the early 1970s carried the imprint of the era in which it was introduced. If you recall, 1970s, it was the era of the Cold War between the Western democracies and the former Soviet Union with its communist bloc in Eastern Europe. It was the era in the United States of the civil rights movement, which had its overflow into Canada. And it was the era of the Vietnam War. It was the era at the end of the decolonization of the European imperial possessions. And it was the era, and this is most important, my friends, looking back almost half a century, it was the era of the beginning of self-doubt in the West, of questioning its past in a manner that would morph into deconstructing its history as a series of wrongs perpetrated against other non-European peoples and cultures without any redeeming value of its own cultural achievements that made the West, including Canada, unique in terms of building a civilization based on liberal democratic values founded on individual rights and freedom. When a people lose their own sense of history, no one can save them. That was the beginning a half a century ago, and we have arrived at a point in time when our leaders can talk about, without any compunction, of giving up on their country. The central idea pulsating through the making of the West, from the signing of the Magna Carta to the birth of the American Republic, is the principle that all men are created equal. My friends, note, all men, in the language of the time, or hence, all individuals are created equal, and not all cultures. The founding fathers of the United States and Canada understood well the simple axiom about freedom and equality. It was this principle that all men are created equal. Let me take a diversion here for a moment. This principle, all men are created equal, takes its birth and flourishes in the making of the Western civilization. I was born in a civilization riddled by caste system. I know the difference between all men are created equal, that all of us, irrespective of the differences in our fingerprints, are made in the image of God. In contrast to a culture in which I was born, not of my choosing. The only thing of my choosing is the life I made or the opportunity that was given to me. So the culture into which I was born is a culture of caste system, that you are stamped on birth to which caste you belong. And there is nothing on earth that can redeem you from the branding of that caste. So India's greatest leader, Mahatma Gandhi, called the untouchables the people born into the lowest of the lowest caste. Harijan means children of God. Where did Mahatma Gandhi get that idea from? Well, he was educated by the British and went to England to get his law degree. The culture of Magna Carta gave to the man born in a culture of caste system the idea that all men are created equal in the image of God, which today is part of the Indian Constitution. And we, the children of Johnny MacDonald and Sir Wilfrid Laurier, have inverted the entire notion of all men are created equal to all cultures are created equal. It just bewilders me and shatters me. And if the foundation is wrong, then the house built on that foundation cannot stand. You know that and I know that. Culture is upstream. Politics and economics is downstream. You ruin the culture, you've ruined your politics and economics. You know, the Bible, the Torah, the Quran speaks about, and all sacred scripture speaks about, an almighty power as the creator of our world and of us. But it is only in that corner of the world which constitute the cradle of Western civilization that the idea all men are created equals took root and then flourished. And that backwater of the world, when the Chinese had the greatest civilization, or the Indians had the greatest civilization, or the Arab Muslim world had the greatest civilization, and nobody paid attention to that backwater, within a few decades, that backwater became the powerhouse in the making of the modern civilization. So it is ideas that impel and move people. And when the ideas are wrong and corrupted and debased, civilization fall apart. It was Shakespeare who said about individual, the best. He put the words in the mouth of Hamlet. What a piece of work is man. Listen to this. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculties. In form and moving, how express and admirable in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. That's what we are, each one of us. That is our potential. That's our challenge. That's what's the meaning, what Maxime puts on the table: individual freedom, personal responsibility, fairness and respect. Nothing has been handed down to you and me. We create this world. Are we up to that challenge? Everything was handed down to Justin Trudeau, and he's a third-grade actor, pretending to be the Prime Minister of this great country of ours. The question is not he is a third-grade actor. The question is, where are we that elected him? That's the question we have to answer. It's easy to ridicule Justin Trudeau. But in Justin Trudeau, we see the inflected image of us. We have forgotten that we are carrying the image that God has given us. So, my friends, by adopting or in adopting official multiculturalism, as the elder Trudeau did, the notion of collective or group identity was introduced alongside that of individual rights. Eventually, demands based on group rights over and above individual rights have come to reshape our liberal democracy and push Canada, as well as other Western democracies, increasingly towards soft despotism of the state to define for us as individuals what is politically correct and what is not. What is therefore acceptable by the state and what is considered and often subject to some form of punishment. In due time, the elder Trudeau, however, came to regret the policy of official multiculturalism he had fathered. He eventually dismissed it as an illegitimate offspring of an illegitimate idea. Speaking at a private luncheon arranged for him by the Speaker of the House of Commons in the mid-1990s, Pierre Trudeau, when asked about official multiculturalism, remarked, "No, this is not what I wanted." One parliamentarian attending this private lunch later mentioned that Mr. Trudeau regretted how this policy was twisted to celebrate a newcomer's country of origin and not a celebration of the newcomer becoming part of the Canadian fabric. Indeed, in the last book he co-edited with his principal secretary, Tom Axworthy, titled Towards a Just Society, and wrote a chapter for it, there is no praise nor mention of official multiculturalism. The silence on the subject is shattering. But where have we arrived under Justin Trudeau is the inevitably logical unfolding of the false premise of official multiculturalism. It now means, as Justin Trudeau has stated, Canada has no core value, and that Canada is a post-national state. His slogan of diversity is strength is as nonsensical as all cultures are equal. And Justin Trudeau's notion of Canada as a post-national state can only mean one thing, that in his Canada, national sovereignty is meaningless and to be bartered away for the globalist agenda of one borderless world under UN authority. His signing of the UN Global Compact on Migration is consistent with his view that Canada without core value, and therefore his Liberal government readily agrees to open Canada to mass migration of people from illiberal cultures that will sooner than later overwhelm and undermine Canada's unique liberal culture. Official multiculturalism in Canada has turned out to be, if I borrow Malcolm Muggeridge's phrase, the great liberal death wish. But we, my friends, have awakened to what is at stake in this October federal election. It is the very survival of our country as we have known it. And we will not rest until we have secured our country from those who pander to the globalists, the Islamists, the multiculturalists in our midst. We are not a multicultural country. We are multi-ethnic and a bilingual country. We are Canadians of diverse ethnic origins, and yet united together as Canadians, we cherish those values of individual rights and freedoms that have made Canada one of the most envied countries in the world. We reject the falsehood of diversity as our strength. We instead celebrate our strength in multi-ethnic unity to keep Canada strong and free. I'm immensely proud to introduce to you my friends, Maxime Bernier. There are moments in history of a people that cry out for leadership, and Providence then answers by bringing forth an individual to be that leader in that hour of need. Such is my leader and the leader of the People's Party of Canada. But he's also my friend, who describes himself as the Quebecois from Alberta. This self-description is very apt, for Maxime is a native son of Quebec and a great Canadian. He is cut from the same fabric of Canadian history from which was cut the greatly inspiring and charismatic leader in the early decades of the last century, Sir Wilfrid Laurier. Maxime is the embodiment of the words Sir Wilfrid expressed in speaking about himself. Sir Wilfrid said, "I'm a Canadian first, last, and all the time." And so is Maxime. And in speaking about his driving ambition in politics, Sir Wilfrid said, "The governing motive of my life has been to harmonize the diverse elements which compose our country." My friends, I speak to you straight from my heart. Maxime's motive, his driving passion, his most sincere devotion is precisely to meet those very challenges which motivated Sir Wilfrid Laurier and which he so eloquently expressed in our time and in our circumstances. So, without delay, my friends, here is my leader, Maxime.
great. That was great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hey, our candidate, yeah. Oh my God. You know why he's our candidate? Yes, I'm very proud to be your friend. And I know Salim for a long time. We had a couple of discussions. He was an intellectual that I was following. And now I'm very pleased that Salim, you decided to be a different politician, a real Canadian that is ready to work to build together this country and to be sure that this country will be like that in a couple of years from now. So we have great candidates like that all across the country. And what we are doing together, Salim said that we are making history, and I think we are. We are, because we are speaking about our real Canadian values. And sometimes, when I'm speaking about our values and against the official policy of multiculturalism, some journalists ask me some question about that. Oh, Mr. Bernier, that means that you don't want to protect the minority in this country. You don't want to...
Refugees are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here.
Yes. So, as you know, as we know, we cannot please everybody. But I don't want to speak about our policy for the farmers. I think you know that. We want to have a fair policy, and that would be fair for everybody, but also fair for a Canadian family. But I want to speak tonight about multiculturalism. And I was saying that journalists asked me, Mr. Bernier, you're against the official policy in Canada on multiculturalism. So is there another one right now? Yeah, you know. Yeah, what we want to do at the end, it's to work for all Canadians. And when people are saying that we don't want to work for some minority in our country, that's not true. Because the ultimate minority, it is the individual. And when we want to speak about individual freedom and personal responsibility, we are speaking for a minority in this country. And that's what we want to do. So, being in politics at the end, it's to work for every Canadian. And I want to give you an example. When I was running for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada, I received a call from an organization, and they told me, Maxime, you must come to speak with us because we have a lot of our people in our organization that are members of the Conservative Party of Canada, and you have an election soon and they don't know for which candidates to vote. And they told me every candidate went to that organization, and that was a Muslim organization in Toronto, and they went and they had a questions, and they said, you're the only one who didn't come. And I said, I will be there. And they told me, we are asking the same questions to every candidate because we'll put that on our website and our members will be able to judge, to decide for which candidate they will vote. So I said, okay, I'll be there. And I'm telling you that example because it's what I believe deeply. And I answered a question, I was there, and at the end the lady looked at me. That's the most important question, Mr. Bernier. If you don't have the answer right now, you can think about it 10, 15 minutes, or you can go back to Ottawa and write the question, write us back your answer. And I said, my God, what is the question, you know? And she said, you know, it's the last one, but our members will look at that question to decide for which candidate they will vote. I said, okay, can you just ask the question? And so, what will you do for the Muslim community? I said, that's the question? She said, yes. I look at her, I said, nothing. But I will do everything for you as a Canadian. I won't do... And that's the same thing for the Christians community, for the Jewish community, for all these communities. You know, for me, they're Canadian first, and I'll do everything for these people as Canadians. And that's the way we are doing politics. No pandering. If you're part of a group, that's okay. I respect you. But I want your support because you like our policies and you like the principles of our party. And I think that you did a good job to explain our 4 principles. And they're very important. And I can tell you that we won't do any compromise with that. You cannot compromise on your principles. And that's why it's important to have this debate about values, about what we believe in this country. We don't have this debate anymore. You know, you look at the platform of the Liberals, the Conservative, it's all about pandering. You're a mom or a dad, or you have a kid that is playing hockey, and you know you want to have their vote and their support. You're going to give them a tax credit for your children that will play hockey. So we won't do that. We will lower your taxes to everybody. That will be a fair policy to everybody, and you'll have more money to decide what to do. If you want to give that to your son, and if you want him to be able to play hockey, you'll do that. If you want to do other things, you'll do that. You are responsible. So right now in this country, we have a big fat government in Ottawa that is telling you what to do every day and regulate, a lot of regulations every time something happens. Politician thinks they have the solution and they put more legislation, more regulation, more taxes. So let's have a limited government in this country that will respect taxpayers, that will respect Canadians. But before doing that, we must have a discussion. And we are having that discussion about immigration, about multiculturalism. And I cannot add more than what Salim just said about it. And I want you to be able to read his book. And I'm doing that right now. It's a great work. And when you are reading this book, you're so proud to be Canadians. And I'm so proud to be Canadians. I like what I'm doing. And I know that we have your support. But we have the support also of people who are ready for a big change in this country. We are all together making history tonight. Something will happen in this country. Yes, politicians are saying that, oh, Bernier is a populist politician. You know, I don't have anything, but I'm okay with that, but just add smart populist politician. because me, Salim, and our candidates are appealing to your intelligence. We want you to understand our platform. And if you look at our platform, if you look at our policy, you'll know that it's based on common sense. And it's time to have debates in this country. Yes, I was very pleased to have this comparison with Sir Laurier. And, he was a liberal, but he was a great liberal in the economic sense and speaking about liberty. And, I've read his biography and what he did for this country. But it was always based on values. And we had at that time, 100 years ago, discussion about the future of this country. And now we cannot have that in this country. We are starting a discussion on multiculturalism and on immigration. And people are saying, you cannot speak about it. You cannot have any discussion about it. It's a taboo to speak about who we are and what we want in the near future for our children. No, it is not. And yes, we are welcoming people coming from other countries, but they must share our values. That's the basic. I'll tell you. When I was Foreign Affairs Minister, I traveled, and the reputation of our country around the world at that time was a good reputation because of you, because of Canadians. And so I was in Saudi Arabia and I arrived on a commercial plane. I was with my assistant and she was with me, and they told us, stay in the plane because the king will come and they will be there just to receive you. And we have to wait. Everybody left the plane, and we were the only two in the plane. And so I was looking at the window, and the king arrived, and they put the red carpet, and everybody were ready to receive me as the Foreign Affairs Minister. So we were ready to go out and leave the plane. A lady came, and she said, I have a gift for you. For me? How come you're giving me a gift in the plane, But she said, it's not for you. It's for your assistant. I said, okay. What was the gift? The gift was a burqa. And she had to wear the burqa. We were in Saudi merci. Yes, and we were there. We did like they asked us to do. So after that, I shake the king's hands, and she was with me. Nobody looked at her because she had the burqa. But we were in their country. That's their culture. And we respect their culture. But like Salim said, every culture are not equal. And when you are coming to our country, we want to welcome you also. But you have to respect our culture. You have to respect that here it's equality before the law. And freedom and the separation between religion and state, and equality before the law, equality between men and women, respect, pluralism, so tolerance. That's Canadian values, free markets, freedom. And so we build this country together. When I'm saying we, the Francophone, the Anglophone, the First Nation, and immigrants from all over the world. And we are all here, maybe from different ethnicity and other countries, but we are all united behind our Western civilization values and Canadian values. And when Justin Trudeau said there's no Canadian core identity, it's not real. It's not real. You must not be proud of this country saying that. We have a core identity, Canadian identity. That's what we are right now. And we must do everything to protect that. Everything to be sure that people will come and to share our values. And we are welcoming everybody in our country. But can we ask our newcomers to, first of all, having an interview with them? Because as you know, right now, only 20% of our newcomers and immigrants have a face-to-face interview. So we are asking for a face-to-face interview with everybody. So we want to know them. We want to know if they share our Canadian values. And yes, if you share our Canadian values, our Western civilization values, you will come and help us to build a freer and a more prosperous country. So, in politics, you have up and downs, and that's okay. But the most important, I can see it, we're going up every time. We started that, we were only 20,000 members of the People's Party of Canada. Now we're 45,000 members. We started that, I was alone, the 14th of September, a year ago in a couple of days. And now we have great candidates all across the country. More than the Green Party, more than the Liberals, more than the NDP, only the country, yeah. And we can grow. We can grow because maybe 50% of the population don't know that we exist. So we just have to be there. And I can promise you that I won't do any compromise with our principle. I don't have time to waste. I was 12 years in politics before creating the People's Party, and I like what I'm doing right now with you. I like the support that we have all across the country, in Quebec, outside Quebec, in Alberta, in New Brunswick. All across, we have people like you, working Canadians, that are coming to listen to a politician from Quebec with a strong accent, speaking about freedom. That's great. Something is happening in this country. And what will be the result of the election? I can tell you that some journalists are saying, Bernier won't be able to be re-elected in his riding. Just watch me. I don't like to quote Pierre-Elliott Trudeau, but on that one, just watch me in my riding. We're going to be there, I'm going to be there, but I won't be alone, I can tell you that. I won't be alone, and I will participate in the national debates. We'll have the decision, I will be there. I will be there because of you. We have a petition right now, and we have more than 30,000 signatures all across the country. And, you cannot please everybody in politics. But what I like, some commentators, like from the Global Mail or the Toronto Star, like Chantal Hébert, maybe CBC, they were saying, Maxime must be there. Maxime must be at the debate. And yes, I think with their support, they want me to be there because they think that Bernier will be there. He will lose all his support, and that will be the end of his party. So that's why they want us there. But yes, I will be there, but that will be only the beginning of our common sense revolution. Only the beginning, I can tell you that. Yeah, thanks. And I can tell you that we'll be there. And if we'll not be there, we're going to do something special together. I don't know what, but I count on you. Maybe another kind of debate, and I don't know what we're going to do. But people must know us and our policies. And that's why tonight I count on you, each one of you, you are part of that common sense revolution. You are making history with us. But we need you to be out there, not only on social media. We're very good on social media. We have good people that are helping us and arguing and being out there and tweeting and putting our work on Facebook. That's great. I think we have the best warriors on social media, and I'm proud of that. But you must be out there also, speaking with your friends and your family, and just about Salim and our I'm saying our members of parliament, our candidates, they will be members of parliament for sure. Our candidates, speaking about our platform and our values, it is important. If each one of you speaking only with 10 persons and telling them about our party, 10 and 10 and 10, and that's why we are building something. When we started that, we had, like I said, the first week, we had only 1,000 members, and now we're at 45. So help us to do that common sense revolution. That's my main message tonight. I believe in you. I don't believe in big fat government, and I want to work, and we are putting people first. That's why we are calling our party the People's Party. Oh yeah, about the name. About the name of our party. I don't know if you remember when we started the party last September. Some people, we don't like the name. It's like a communist, the People's Party. And so I was reading some comments on YouTube and listening some comments on YouTube and Facebook a week after we launched the party. But the real story about the name, I will tell you the real story about the name. Before launching the party, 2 days before, I had in mind the People's Party. So I did a focus group. I don't believe in focus group, but I did a focus group with my daughters. And I said to Charlotte, we had a dinner, and I said, Dad will launch a party, and I have a great name for the party. And so the name will be the People's Party of Canada, PPC. And Charlotte looked at me, and she said, Dad, I don't like the name. It's like a communist name, and so I don't like it, and you're not like that. I said, but nobody will believe that I'm a communist. So we can use that name. But she said, I don't like that. I understand what you want. You want to tell people that you're ready to work with people and put people first. I understand that, and it's important to have that in your name. But let me think about something. So we had our dinner together. And at the end, she said, I have the name. I said, okay, what must be the name? And she said, the Citizen Party of Canada. Citizen Party of Canada. That is good. It's like people, but it's citizen. It's better than people. Citizen Party of Canada. I said, Charlotte, it's a nice name. I cannot use it because it will be like the Conservative Party of Canada, CPC. And it's against the law. I cannot have the same first letters. So CPC, Citizen Party of Canada, CPC, Conservative Party of Canada. So I said, just because of that, they won't allow me to use that name. But you understand what I want to build, what we want to do, and I appreciate that. And so we decided to keep the People's Party of Canada, and I'm very pleased and very proud. I think people understand now what we are doing, and I want more people to understand what we are doing, and that's why I count on you. I count on our members and all Canadians that are outside that don't know us. I count on you because the 21st of October, a lot of people will know that we exist and what it is to be a member of the People's Party of Canada. So thank you very much for your support. And it's a lot of work to do that together. And people are telling me, Maxime, you must be tired. No, I'm not tired. You are giving me a lot of energy, and you are giving energy to our candidates, to Salim and everybody, because you are supporting us. And so, yes, I will travel across the country. And I'm looking for that election that will start actually tomorrow, supposed to be tomorrow. But we will be there, and we will challenge the other leaders. Count on us, but I count on you also. I like what I'm doing, and I'm here for the long run. But I think the 22nd of October, something will happen in this country because of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Maxime. Merci bien. Thank you, Salim. Boy, you had to follow a hard act, I'm telling you. We do have a question and answer period, and that is the proper place for asking the tough questions. And if I must say one thing about the people who are disruptive tonight and earlier on today, is that they do not represent our opposition. Our opposition are people who voted Liberal, NDP, Conservative. They're our parents, our children, our neighbors, our friends, our brothers, our sisters. And these people here don't represent them. They're anomalies, so they should just be forgotten. So, we have a microphone here for Maxime. A question for Salim, if you would. Want to step up to the microphone and ask anybody.
Who's going to be the first one?
We're all in agreement. Wonderful. Can you, just ask the microphone too.
Yeah, it's about the CBC. So as you know, we have a strong platform on CBC. We want CBC to be independent from the government, not dependent from the government. And if they're so good, they will be able to raise money from their viewers. So that's our position on that.
Hello, thank you very much for coming. I have a couple questions. Perhaps you could speak to Bill C-71 and firearm rights in Canada, what you plan to do with that, and can I get a picture with you after?
Yes. Thanks. It would be an honor. Yeah, we'll repeal that bill and change the bill. As you know, we have a policy on firearms, and I think that it is important. Actually, right now, the RCMP are writing the law and enforcing the law. That must be the parliament. That's our role, to make and vote legislation. We'll do that, but the RCMP will be only in charge of enforcing the law. So yes, we'll have a look at that legislation, and that would be a big change.
Hello, Maxine.
Hello.
I have a question about big tech, Google, Facebook, censorship. Yeah. What are we going to do about it?
Yes, the question is about Google, Facebook, Twitter. And so what we can do, first of all, I don't have the solution about it, and I'm not the only one, but we must look at it. I think the first thing that we can do is to have a parliamentary committee that will do hearing about that, listen to Canadians and also to the expert. I know in the US they have the same challenge. In Europe they brought forward some legislation about it. In Australia they're doing something. So I'm telling you, we won't have a precise policy on that before the election because we don't have time to do that. But what I can tell you, it's so important that we must have a debate in Parliament. We must be sure to have a commission that will be in charge to do hearings and look at solution, because the most important is free speech, and we must be able to have free speech in this country without any censorship, and that's important. So yes, we'll do something about that, but I don't have the right answer right now.
How are you, brother?
Fine.
I got a lot of things, but when we as taxpayers, like right now, we're going to build some new ships and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, since it's our money, I better be careful. Why are we using China steel when we got capacity to melt the steel. We got the places to make it. If it's our taxpayers' money, I want to put Canadians to work.
Yeah. So, first of all, about all that, the equipment, your question is about also the equipment for Canadian forces. And it's a shame that every time you have a new political party, the party will do something different. Than we need to have a decision for the long term. I'm looking at what's happening in Australia right now. There's an independent commission that is looking for the equipment of their forces, and for a long time. You need to build that. We need to give them the right equipment. And then, when I'm speaking about our budget, I'm always speaking about cutting. But we will respect the Constitution, but on our Canadian forces, we won't cut. Our program is to be sure that we will invest 2% of our GDP for our Canadian forces, and we have a policy also for our veterans. So doing that, we won't be able to do that in the first budget, but that must be a commitment in the first budget, and every year we'll increase our budget for our military, and being sure that they will be able to buy the right equipment, and if possible, built in Canada.
Another important question. How are you on this USMCA? Well, I call it the old NAFTA deal. Mexico loves it,
Yeah.
but the boy in Toronto, or Ottawa now, they're just not saying too much. Is it a negative thing to them?
But
is it a good thing, Max, or is it a bad thing?
Okay, the question is about our relationship with the U.S., the free trade and all that. So first of all, we must start our relationship with the U.S. having a discussion about the safe third-party agreement. As you know, there's 45,000 fake refugees that are crossing the border in Quebec. And so we want to solve that. And a way to do that is to have an agreement with the U.S. administration about changing the third safe country agreement for being sure that the border, all our Canadian border, will be an official port of entry. And like that, that's why they are crossing at the Roxham Road, because while they're doing that, they can ask for being refugees in this country. But if they cross at the official port of entry, because they are coming from a safe country, the US, because their life is not in danger, they have to go back in the US. So we need to solve that first. Putting a fence over there.
Build the wall.
A fence. Putting a fence over there, but telling them, if you want to welcome in our country, you're welcome, but you need to use the official port of entry. But they won't do that because they know that they are fake refugees. So, and on our relationship on the economy, I think it's important to look at the NAFTA agreement, at the free trade agreement with the US. We need to have a real free trade, not a managed free trade, and I think we'll be able to look at it.
Good evening, Max. My name is Dave Robel. I am the PPC candidate for Brantford Brant. And we've talked specifically here this evening about, and listened to ethnicity within our country. But there is a damning document I refer to as a Truth and Reconciliation document, which was fundamentally speared by the UN and then brought to Canada with its recommendations, all 96 of them. My question to you, sir, and I have not seen in documentation because from where I come from, we are on the largest area of territory with 6 nations. How are we, as a people and a party, going to address those information and those attitudes politically to address for our people, our First Nations people?
Yeah. Okay, on that, I just want to let you know, stay tuned, because in 2 weeks from now, we'll issue our policy for the First Nation. And it will be based on respect the treaties, but also respecting them as Canadians. And we want to have a kind of a property rights on reserve. So, and we want to look at the Indian Act also. There's a lot of changes there. We will be, our policy will be out in a couple of days from now, and that will be your answer.
Thank you very much. It does lead to one last question, though. There is the Truth and Reconciliation documentation. Does that become part of our policy, or is that something that we throw away and we revisit and actually address with our Six Nations or First Nations
Yes, we'll
friends?
revisit that for sure. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name's Eric. I'm in London North Centre. As you probably know, London is quite a Liberal and NDP stronghold. London has kind of been hit with a lot of industry leaving the city, and people are hurting. I've been trying to convince other friends of mine or colleagues that the People's Party is the way to go. The totally opposite end of the spectrum in terms of fiscal responsibility and social programs, etc. What kind of message can we promote that is very simple? I mean, obviously the PPC party platform is common sense, but it's very hard for them to grasp some of the ideas because they're so entrenched in what they have been brainwashed with media. What kind of message can we give to them to spread the idea even quicker?
But first of all, I think we are a kind of a huge coalition. When I'm saying that, people, people coming from other political backgrounds, from liberals, conservative, NDP, are with us right now because of our values and principles and policies. So we are able to attract people from different political backgrounds. And I want to tell you that the best score that we had after 3 months, it was the last by-election in February, it was in Burnaby South. After 3 months, we had 10.6% of the votes with Lauraline Thompson. But it is an NDP riding right now. But we can win an NDP riding, we can win a liberal riding or a conservative riding. So my message to these people, vote for the values that you believe in and look at our platform. We are the party that is ready to do bold changes in this country for a better future. We believe in respecting our constitution. Our constitution, it's a great document. We just have to respect that. So if you're speaking with people that is coming from an NDP background, you can tell them, we will abolish corporate welfare. That's unfair. The NDP won't do that. They won't do that. It's not part of that platform. If you're speaking to liberals that voted for Trudeau and Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin before for a balanced budget and lower taxes, we will do that. We're the only party who will balance the budget. If you speak to a person that didn't vote at the last election, and we have a lot of them that are coming with us because they didn't believe in politicians, in traditional politicians, and they were fed up with them. And now they're looking at our platform, they're looking at our common sense platform, they like it. So we have a platform that can bring a lot of people all together who share the same ideas. And the most important, the message, we are doing politics differently. We don't try, if you don't like us, that's it, vote for another party. That we won't try to have every single vote and doing like the other political party, pandering to them, pandering to a region, pandering to a special interest. We won't do that. We are the party that is putting people first and all Canadians. So that's important. That's a new way to do politics. That may be risky, but that's a nice risk. And I'm saying what's happening today. I think, doing that, people understand that we are very different than the other political party. And we must put that forward and telling them, you look at what we're doing, look at our policies, look at the way we are doing politics. Canada first.
And just as a quick one, I was actually a 2015 Liberal voter. And I'm sure a lot of them in this room were former Liberal voters. So there is no vote split. It doesn't exist. My vote is for myself and myself only. Yeah. And if you can convince other people likewise, they'll have more strength to themselves. Now, can we call Jagmeet Singh and ask for a debate while he's in the city?
Well, thank you. I just want to, in a sense, add as an addendum to what Maxime has been speaking about. I've been speaking to my students over the duration of this 42nd Parliament that will expire tomorrow. And the key issue for my students, that is students who were born just around or before 9/11, and now they are in university. Okay? They are, in that sense, not millennial. My son was a millennial, born in the 1980s. They are now, whatever you want to call them, in the mid-1990s. The number one issue for this generation, both millennial and the children born in the 1990s, is once they have graduated from the school after having borrowed the money, or their parents having borrowed the money and gone into debt, or the government has paid them but has transferred the debt to future generations to pay. The critical issue is that after the June convocation, where will they get the job? I have said to so many of my students, Maxime, after graduating, I said to them, this was 3, 4, 5 years ago, go to Alberta, go to West. And they elected NDP and tanked the economy. My own son went to the West looking for a job. You know, given what you as a Londoner know, we know what has happened to our hydro rates, our gas rates, our real estate and then taxation and so on and so forth. So the critical point here is the economy, is jobs, and to explain to our people that the way for job is not for the government to be building NGOs, third rail economy, which is more taxation on all of us, to create job, which is simply a facade, a charade. Real jobs will only come through entrepreneurs willing to invest in this country. And we are not going to have real jobs if we have a government that is running year after year after year a flat economy. Our growth in the second quarter, our growth was 0.5%. 0.5%. And the American economy is at a full growth, full rate, at close to 4%. The employment rate is full economy. Maxime is an economist. I am an economist. I'm telling you, we don't create jobs. People create jobs. So what we are saying, we're going to deal with the issue of job, with the issue of economy by two very important things. One is, Maxime is the Quebecois from Alberta, so he knows that. We are going to take away from the break that Justin and NDP and others have put on our resource economy, and is suffocating us and killing us. We can be the greatest economy in this country. Okay? So that is number one. As Maxime said, we will build a pipeline and we will get the economy going, our resource economy. We will be, alongside the United States, the premier natural gas and oil producing country in the world. That is going to end the story. The number two thing we're going to do, Maxime has talked about taxation. We'll ask our people to look at the rate, what we're talking about. But the critical thing to understand is we cannot have a taxation policy over here and our greatest partner have a taxation policy over here. Money flows downstream. Money doesn't flow upstream. Justin Trudeau and his people, Bill Morneau, they don't understand. They think money flows upstream, water flows upstream. So we are going to balance it off. We are going to create symmetry. We are going to harmonize. And finally, I just wanted to get you all to grasp the importance of this. The media hasn't spoken about this, and the media doesn't speak about this. And too many academics are on the left wing. And so they cheered Maxime during the last G7 conference in Quebec, in Charlevoix. Justin, Maxime was the only one who stood up on this issue. In 1992, the Free Trade Agreement of 1998 was turned into North American free trade by bringing Mexico in. In 1988, you will not remember, but many other people in this room will remember, the Liberal under John Turner and the New Democrat under Ed Broadbent made the 1988 election into a referendum against free trade agreement. Yeah. The free trade agreement opened us and our economy to the greatest economy in the world. In 1992, it became NAFTA. In 1992, our GDP was less than $500 billion. In 2018, 26 years after NAFTA came into being, and Justin Trudeau killed it because he was too busy talking about transgender and gender values, when the President of the United States wanted to discuss the dumping of Chinese steel, the backdoor dumping that was taking place. In 2016, the Canadian economy in these 26 years had more than quadrupled. Our economy is $1.7 trillion. Do your simple arithmetic. As a result of NAFTA, we prospered as no one else. But the Liberals in 1988 was against free trade agreement. In 2018, they killed it. That's what liberalism is all about in North America. It is about the state. It is about taxation. It is about impoverishing our people so that the elite can prosper. My friends, that's what our young people have to understand. There's nothing holding us back but the elite establishment. We, the People's Party of Canada, want to basically eliminate that.
Maybe I'll take the last question, but I'll be with you. So the last one, yeah.
Hi.
I'll stay here after that, yeah.
Hi, my name's Ted from London West, and I'm really excited by what I'm hearing tonight and by the party. I hope we get scores and scores of MPs elected. I'm just concerned about the power of the caucus. From Mike Harris to Stephen Harper to Trudeau today, the caucus seems to count for nothing. They're puppets. They just vote the way they're told to vote, yeah, and they count for nothing. An inner circle controls everything. Yeah. And I think the only way we can get real democracy functioning the way it's supposed to is if the caucus has some actual power, and the power being to topple the leader if the leader's going off the rails.
Okay, your question is about the caucus, but you know, who's going to have the power? It is not the caucus, it will be the members of parliament. Our members, they will be free to table bills, to vote, and so we won't impose always whip votes on our members. Yes, we have a program, we have a platform, we all believe in that. Our focus will be to achieve that. But after that, if Salim has an important bill that he wants to present, he'll be able to table a private bill, and that will be a free vote. So that's important to give more power, more responsibility to our members of parliament. And yes, we'll do that, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing, just before we clue up, because Max does have to fly or drive to Toronto real quick, and that is that this is a democracy. This is how we enact regime change. It's either this or war or violence. So think of this as a civilized war and act accordingly, because values are at stake, the country's at stake. And I would direct you to go to salimmansur.ca and fill our war chest. Thank you, Maxime. Thank you, Salim. Thank you, everybody.